Well, hello, and I'm driving here at Austin 1300 ADO 16, I believe it is, from 1973, and it's a lovely sunny little thing. Yep, 1973. In the 70s they had these 3D number plates, and then 50 years later they realised they were cool and started doing them again, didn't they? This is definitely a mustard car. I mean, it's owned by Senior Mustard, and it's a mustard colour. It's the happiest, joyful, most sunny looking thing I've ever seen. It's over there, isn't it? Some of you may know I reviewed the Austin 1100 that was a few years older than this. It was most definitely one of the highlights of last year, and this one I believe will be one of the highlights of this year. What a wonderful, happy little cheery car it is. Why I've chosen to review this car at the side of a main road like this, I don't know. Because everybody going by is looking at the car and then looking at me talking to myself or talking to you. But they don't know it's you, do they? They might do later on if they search Project Nigel, but they probably won't. A rare sight nowadays, of course, this particular kind of car. But in the 60s and 70s, they were everywhere. This was possibly, no, not possibly, actually the best selling car in Britain. Yep. And now what have we got? Something much less friendly, just like the people who drive them. If all these Audi drivers today climbed out their Audi and started driving one of these, they'd probably stop being so aggressive. What can we say about the front? It's simply very cute, very humble. What can we say about the back? It's simply very cute, very humble. What can we say about the profile? It's very cute, it's very, you know what I'm going to say. I have to do, if I want to be popular, I've got to be predictable. Door shut sounds. Let's talk about interior space. Inside the Austin, there is plenty room, headroom for a proper sized adult. There's not really the elbow room, but then a proper sized adult now is different to how it used to be. Now they need a bit more width. Have you seen how wide cars are recently? Eh? Well, do you know why? Yep. The dashboard is slightly more modern than the car before it. Having this big slab like that, it's so 70s. Dare I say it looks like the 70s? It does, it really does. They made the 70s happen with cars like this. They weren't trying to think ahead too far, which was quite a good thing, because now it means that the nostalgia that you feel is of the correct time. And certainly for me, having a dashboard like this, it makes me feel like I'm 5. Although I wouldn't be driving it, of course, but I might be releasing the handbrake and letting the car roll into some other cars down the road. Everything about a car like this is simple. It's all simple. It was made cheaply, but it was made to last as well. No, it wasn't. It wasn't really made to last. Any that are surviving have just been exceedingly well looked after, because obviously corrosion was the big word of the 70s. It was all the rage in the 70s. Everybody loved corrosion. Oh yes, can we have some rust with that car? Yes, you can. How much would you like? Lashings of it, please. Right, here you go, sir. I think the dashboard's actually made of metal. It certainly sounds like it. What's that? What does that do there? Oh, it's an ashtray, of course. Because there was a time when everybody smoked. And I mean everybody. not just people in cars, not just teachers and doctors. Yep, I remember seeing people of about 7 or 8 years old smoking away, and it was all fine. I mean, it wasn't fine, but that's how they became grown up, or so they thought. Not me though, I was too soft. More simplicity can be found with these air vents. What more simplistic can you get than that? You just push it open, you can twist it around, and basically that's all it does. We have a glove box, which is the size of, well, more than gloves. You could probably put some pies in there. The heater controls are nothing complicated. It's basically on or off, or hot or cold. The screen or the rest of the car, or neither. And there we have a little choke button. Well, it's not a button at all, is it? It's something you pull out, and it provides the engine with a bit more fuel, which is necessary to make the car start on a cold morning, or even not so cold, come to think of it. One feature that you find in old cheap cars that you don't even find on expensive cars these days, things like these quarter lights. But why did they have them in the first place? Well, it was just about controlling airflow, basically. Apparently that was cheaper and easier to do than have a proper heater matrix. And maybe they just hadn't thought of it. Well, what else have we got down here? Oh, a heated rear screen. Another thing that you pull out, that might be for the reversing lights. And, screen wash. Right. And there's the wiper control there and the fog lamp. None of it's difficult to figure out. I wasn't showing you this. I figured it out. You know, it can't be difficult, can it? It needed not to be difficult for people to understand it as well. These days it has to be complicated, otherwise it's got no credibility whatsoever. But in the old days, people like to be able to use stuff properly. And more simplicity can be found with the speedometer, which takes you to 100, which is good because it's not unrealistic. And then a temperature gauge and a fuel gauge. Those gauges are worthwhile having. A nice big thin rimmed steering wheel for when you want to turn the wheels, and a little horn. Cars like this don't have power steering. It's not because it hadn't been invented, but it's just, you know, unnecessary. And it is unnecessary, but it's only tiny. It's got little tiny skinny wheels that you can turn. 12-inch wheels. That's tiny. 155. That's narrow. Power steering, unnecessary. Power steering came around for small cars like this, so people didn't have to put any effort into it. And because they were basically lazy. Around the back there we have this one tiny little pea shooter and exhaust. Look, you could get your finger in there but not much else. And then we have a fully opening boot. Now this boot is not really big enough to climb in. I reckon you probably could just about climb inside there, but I wouldn't recommend it, because if you close it, you're never getting out by yourself. There's no handle on the inside, and there's no way to the back seat, so that's where you're going to live. I would have thought this car is known for water ingress in one place or another. There must have been some reason why they rotted away so much. But then look at this on the boot there. Look, it looks like a tap. You press that and water comes out and ends up inside the boot. I've just had a chap go by on his push bike and say, "Nice car" to me. And I said, "Thank you." And it's not even my car. This car does have the A series engine. One of my favourite things about the A series engine is this. How easy it just goes on. When driving on the Queen's Highway, it is customary and the law to wear your seat belt. With this, no inertia wheel belt. You have to bung it in the hole like so, and then you know, it might just restrain you. It might not. Now, because this car is so narrow, I've just had to remove the phone holder cradle device to the corner of the window because it was simply too close. You could see it my nose, and that's not a good idea. And now I'm about to take a little drive. And so here we go, let's turn it back off again. This car does have mirrors on the corners of the bonnet, so that's just a little bit too far away for me to see what's going on. Let me see if I can show you. Yeah, no, we used to have a mirror there, and having a decent sized one, but there, what can you see with that? Not a great deal, really. This car is very much designed for people that don't have back problems and can turn their neck and look around. Then somebody invented sciatica, and no longer people can do it. Clutch is ever so slightly juddery on it, which I was warned about. And out we go. You can't rush the gears in this. Gosh, it actually picks up like quite respectably. I'm only doing 40 miles per hour here, but it just seems to have got there rather nicely without any real drama. And it drives along quite flat and quite straight and quite noisily, but with a wonderfully raspy, rooty A-series sound to it, and I like it. I'm only taking it for a little drive, but I'd like to take it for a long drive. Yeah, I would do. Maybe I should. The steering is quite positive, quite direct, although there's a bit of a noise from the rack at the moment. Even though that's been changed, it's still a bit noisy. The ride's just really rather lovely actually. It's got a very smooth ride, but you feel like you're moving up and down like this a little bit. It's kind of comforting. It's just lovely. I just like the ride. Yeah, do you know what? The amount of cars you drive around on these rough old roads with, where you're just having your jaw clanged everywhere and your teeth smashed out almost, to have something where it doesn't do that at all, yet it's 50 years old almost, is quite amazing. What happened to ride comfort? When did people decide they don't want to be comfortable in their car any longer? Because that's what's happened, isn't it? The suspension's nice, it's pliable, and the tyres are big enough to take up a lot more of that bounce on these horrible roads that we have in this country. And then the seats are soft as well. It's got the whole lot. Why would anybody want to be jarred around? I simply don't understand it. I don't. Oh, there's Derek. Just realised I haven't got the door closed properly. The turning circle is not quite as tight as I would have expected, but you know, it's still okay. It's good enough for me. Could you live with a car like this every day? I think you probably could actually. It starts and drives as you would want it to do, so what more do you need? The only thing you really need on today's roads is something that won't crumple into tiny little bits when you get hit on head on by someone in an Audi. This isn't going to help you out at all. But why should everybody drive around in Audis just so they're safe against other Audi drivers? It's simply not fair. Maybe that's their marketing ploy. Make sure that the drivers are lunatics, and then more people will have to buy them. I think I may have gone off point a bit. I forgot to do the sit in the back test. Central locking's not working. There's an engine featured in all cars.